Hello, guys, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Sean Phillip, a retired LAPD agent and private detective. Here, at True Detective, you're going to listen to the craziest stories. If you like detective stories and police cases, turn on your notifications and listen to new episodes every week. Without any further ado, let's start. A game that two can play. It was a hot Monday morning. We were in the middle of June, and summer was on its peak. I was finishing my daily patrol when my radio rang and the central reported a case of robbery in a store near the Santa Monica Pier. I was close to the location, so I immediately headed there. When I arrived, the scene was chaotic, but not unfamiliar to a veteran like me. The robbers, there were two of them, were wearing black masks and they were holding a woman as their hostage. When I noticed the girl, my heart ached a little bit. Probably because I knew that after going through a situation like that, she would be traumatized for a long period. But there was something else to it too. I just couldn't put my finger into it. Even though I was anxious for some reason, the procedure went on smoothly. The robbers knew that they were soon going to be surrounded and that resisting was just going to make things worse for them. After a little bit of talking and negotiating, they let the woman go and raised their hands in an act of submission.
It's over for you! This is the police!
Louis handcuffed the evildoers and then asked him to take them to the legacy. For some reason, I knew that I had to talk with the woman that was still near me. She looked too familiar to be just a coincidence. When the police car was gone, I turned to the woman and started asking her some questions. She said her name was Janet Kingston and that she worked at the store. She was crying while answering my questions, but after a few minutes, I managed to calm her down. I helped her fill in some papers talking about what had happened that afternoon and took her number for contact. She was then driven home by another officer and I finally finished my round. When I arrived home, I felt that something was off with me. Maybe the encounter with someone that seemed so familiar and still not being able to recognize her had made me a bit irritated or frustrated. Then, I had the brilliant idea to call the woman and talk to her a little bit. Maybe I'll be able to remember who she was if I ask her a few more questions. I took my phone out of my pocket and called her. The telephone rang for half a minute and she took the call. I introduced myself again and asked if she was really okay. After asking the non-personal questions, I got over my shyness and moved on to the more private ones. I asked where she had studied and where she came from. At first, she was awkward about it, but then I explained that something seemed familiar about her and I wanted to know where I knew her from. After that, she answered some of my questions, but I still couldn't picture where I knew her from. I didn't have any more questions to ask, so I turned off the call and decided to search more information about her on the internet. I googled her name, searched it in the police database, but still, it seemed like she didn't even exist. Suddenly, my phone rang again. I was a bit agitated and anxious, but I still took the call. It was Louis, my partner. He said that after interrogating the robbers and watching the videotapes of the store, he'd found many weird things that were uncommon for cases like that. He sent me the tape and I watched it. Then, it was that moment that something clicked in my head and everything made sense. I called Louis again and explained everything to him. And the next day, I called Janet again. I said we needed her to give her testimony about the case in the legacy. She didn't complain about it and we met there at 11 a.m. She filled some papers and went into my office with me and Louis. When everyone had seated and made themselves comfortable, I asked Janet a simple question. If she knew who Rachel Silverwing was. She panicked and immediately tried to run away. Louis caught her and forced her to sit down again. I asked why she was acting like that. I had just asked a simple question, but she could no longer answer a thing. The truth was that Janet wasn't her real name, nor was it Rachel Silverwing. Her real name was Antonia, and she had been in my first case at the LAPD. The case had been very similar to the one that happened the day after. Antonia would disguise herself as a customer or attendant at a store and would help her partners rob it while acting as the perfect hostage. When she worked at the store, she returned off the alarms and unlocked the doors. I didn't exactly remember her, but I remembered the frustration that I felt when she got away the first time and later her lie was exposed. I remember the mockery in her eyes that was once again directed towards me. This time, however, I was the one laughing. It had been an easy job, and now my arch rival would be held behind bars for long, long years.